Alright y'all, what it do? I am back with another video on the grind one more time again. Now I'm on the second phase of this Buick here, just trying to, if you're just tuning in for the first time on here, on my previous video I talked about how I have a intermittent smoking out of the tailpipe, and it's not totally white, it's more kind of like a bluish tint, and typically that would mean oil is burning somewhere, and it's only at idle. I don't ever see it as I'm driving on the freeway or at higher speeds. It just kind of puffs in and out at idle when I stop, or when I just turn on the car and let it run. So what I'm thinking is possibly valve seals, but I wanted to go through the correct process of trying to diagnose this. So a lot of this is my first time doing compression tests and leak down tests and things like that. I've never had an issue with it before. All the engines that I've rebuilt have had new parts, and fortunately I've never had any issues with it. However, this is the original engine in this car. The original engine actually only has about 60,000 miles on it. Original, not rebuilt. However, it has been rebuilt with race car parts. Previously, a lot of this top end stuff is actually from a car that, a turbo V6 that went 132 miles an hour in a quarter mile. I mean, fast, super fast for a V6. That's insane. And so a lot of these parts are off that car. This car was built in Montreal at a company called JB Racing. The car is a Canadian car, so I actually got it from Canada, which is only, well, British Columbia is only 2 hours from here, so went up and got it up there. So however, this car's never been raced. It's pretty much been babied all its life. The guy, it was kind of like his toy. He just basically put money into it and just let it sit, and they hardly ever drove it. So this is where I take it over. So the first year ran great, and then the second year kind of started, it still runs good. The second year kind of started seeing smoke, and then third year is just kind of the same. And it's kind of not really getting worse, but it's becoming more often. So I decided to kind of attack it and see what I can do. So if you watched my last video, I did a compression test, and on these cars about 150 is kind of where you want to be, for my research at least. And all the cylinders were all right about 150. Also, you want to have each PSI number within about 10% of each other, which they all are. I mean, 140, 150. I did this one twice, and it kind of came two different numbers. I don't know why. The gauge is just a borrowed gauge from a rally, so that could be it. So anyways, that's about 150, 145, 155, 150. So right about 150, more or less. So the compression is good, so I'm hoping, well, at least that's a step in the right direction. Now, I ordered a leak down tester kit from Amazon. I went to Harbor Freight, and Harbor Freight no longer carries their Pittsburgh brand leak down tester. They carry some other brand, and instead of being 25, 30 bucks, it is now about 80 or 90. So for my particular use and how often I would probably use this thing, hopefully not often, I just couldn't justify spending 80 bucks on it. I mean, if I had to and there was no other cheaper one, then I would, but I knew that they were cheaper, so I just went on Amazon. This one got really good reviews, I think almost 5 stars, about 4.5, and it was 30 bucks. So well, 35 shipped, something like that. So I could justify getting it, and it's pretty much the same kit as I've seen in other places. So I went ahead and got this. Came in early. I wasn't supposed to get it till Friday, and I got it today, so which is great because this weekend is supposed to be super nice here, about 80 degrees, and I want to be able to hopefully get this thing on the road. I got new tires coming in for my rims that I had powder coated, so I'm trying to get this thing up and running. So never done a leak down test. So last time I worked on this car, the compression test I've never done before, did that. So now we're gonna start this. First time for everything, right? Now, to my understanding, you just hook it up to the compressor on this end. Then you set the regulator and the gauge. You gotta reset that to 0. and then you hook your fittings up to the spark plug hole, and then you hook it all up and run it, and then see where this cylinder little gauge kind of goes to. So from my understanding, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, you want this to be about 10%. Now if it creeps into like the 15 and 20% range or higher, then you're kind of like in that gray area, 15 to 20, and then higher you probably have a leak. And you also want to make sure whatever cylinder you are checking, you're at top dead center, so that way you don't have any false readings. I'm gonna go ahead and try to attack this. Luckily this valve cover is loosened, all the bolts are out, so I'm just gonna pull the cover off, and that'll help me a little bit easier to get each cylinder to top dead center when I'm checking it. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now, and I'm gonna go ahead and check this number 1 cylinder, see what I can do, and go from there. So you guys stay tuned. Sorry for all the talking, but I wanted to walk you through this. If this is your first time ever looking at something like this, it is also mine. This is not a how-to channel at all by any means. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, I don't do too many how-to stuffs. A lot of this stuff that I do on this channel is me researching, doing my due diligence, and then attacking it the best that I can. And then whoever has advice, they chime in. I welcome all advice. So well, you know, man, you just can't win them all. So I still haven't done a leak down test on any other ones other than the first one, because this gauge is giving me a false reading. And what I end up finding out is, again, this is cheap Amazon, China parts, I'm sure, is it all actually seems to work good. Holds air and everything, except this fitting that ties into the hose that goes into the cylinder is a piece of junk. It's super light and just not durable at all. And if you if I hold, where is a different one at? So like in comparison to this one, it's a lot heavier. It's like super heavy duty, and the part on the coupler here where it snaps in around the fitting that goes inside is just really strong and sturdy, and there's no play in it at all. This, on the other hand, I mean, this is probably over half as light, and it's just, yeah. So where it's leaking is like right in here. I thought it was leaking here connecting to the fitting, but it's actually leaking in here. And so what it's doing is when I hook it up, so basically what you have to do is set this to 0 by the regulator here. And when I set it to 0, I'm all good until I grab this and try to hook it up, and then since it's leaking air, and then I move this little piece, it messes with the gauge because it's leaking air, and it's no longer holding that position at 0. So then it messes up, and it goes either up here, or it just kind of just does its own thing because there's air leaking. So I could go to a hose shop and try to get this to fit either another one of these, which I actually have an extra one, but I think all these thread pitches are millimeter, and all the ones I have are basically standard. So I couldn't put this one on there because it wouldn't fit. So what I'm gonna do now, I went to Lowe's and I got this. So basically it's a barb fitting that hooks up to a 1/4 inch thread pitch, which I believe this is what this is. And what I'm going to do is cut this end off, and then hook or slide in that barb fitting, and then use that hose clamps to clamp it down, and then hook up that thread 1/4 inch thread pitch end inside to here, and then I should be good to go. So it should work, hopefully. And we'll try to go from here. All right, y'all, so here we go. So I have it all hooked up, man. The fittings from Lowe's that I got worked far better, man. As soon as I got that installed and hooked it up, no leaks at all. So we are set. So I have it all set up. It's actually running right now. Hopefully my compressor doesn't cut on, so I'm gonna try to go at this quick. But right now it's looking at it's about 15 PSI. So from my understanding, you want this right at 10. So right at that line where the yellow and green meet. 15 isn't bad. It's actually about 14, so that might be okay. I don't think that one's the issue. I think the back one might be. So I'm pretty sure I'm at top dead center. And what I do is I turn this alternator nut, since all the belt, serpentine belt is hooked up all as one. And then that turns the whole, that turns the crank and everything. And then I kind of just wait until the exhaust valve closes and you can hear the air come out. And then I just keep going until I know that these two rockers aren't moving anymore, and then I just go just a little bit more just to make sure that those valves are closed. And I hooked it up, so it's actually kind of settling in about 13 or so. So that might be decent. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off, and I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest. I'll probably do the... All right, you guys, so after messing around with this thing for a while, I finally think I got it. It's a little bit of a challenge to really find top dead center on the engine, but I just went ahead and stuck a screwdriver inside the spark plug hole until the piston raised it up to all the way to the top, and I just kept kind of turning it a little bit, filling it with the screwdriver inside the hole, and then as soon as I felt it kind of tap out at the top, right before it started to go back down, I just let it go. So I just kind of inched it, rotating the whole serpentine belt setup until I could kind of find top dead center with my screwdriver. So that seems to work. So now I've already did them a couple times, so I'm just going to show you kind of what I've done here. You got your PSI gauge, and then but you have one that represents the cylinder leakage. So what I'm going to do is, this is your regulator here, if you guys can see it. Let me see. Yeah. So what I do is I just start it over every time. So you click it in to set it, and you pull this back down to turn it the other way. So turn it, I believe this is counterclockwise, will basically release all the air in. So I just kind of just reset it every time just so I can make sure I get a good reading. So now everything's at 0, so there's no air in it right now. And you turn it kind of slowly till release air inside of the gauge, inside of the whole setup, and then you see it start to rise. Everything's rising. You want this to set at 0. And you got it right at about 0. It's about right there. All right, more or less, I'm gonna set it. So now you've set your regulator. So now I already have my hose in the spark plug hole. So what I'm gonna do now, without hitting the camera, so I'm gonna try to press this in and watch the gauge go up. There we go. This is gonna represent if there's any leakage coming out. And right now it's settling in right about 12, 13 maybe. This is a number 3 cylinder. So you want it right about 10 to my understanding. So that should be pretty good, y'all. It's looking pretty good, I believe. And I already did it once and it was pretty much the same. Actually, I did it 2 times already and it was pretty much the same. So that seems to be pretty good. So 1 and 3, pretty good. Yeah, number 5 cylinder is the one that I thought was the issue, and we're about to see here in a moment. So let's see where we end up on this one. So now I have the hose hooked up on the number 5 cylinder, which was the one that I thought was the culprit, or at least one of them. First 2 cylinders checked out pretty good. Let's see about this third one here. All right, we got that set. All right, y'all. So it looks like it's upwards closer to 20, and I'm not surprised. You guys can see that. All right, man, I had the compressor shut back on, so I don't know if that threw off the numbers at all, but I'm gonna go ahead and try this again. All right, y'all, so it's registering slightly higher. So that's why I do this test 2 or 3 times, but the gauge actually kind of bumped up above 0 after I set it. So it's probably reading more about 21, 22, but there you go, y'all. So just as I thought, that's our culprit. All right, y'all, so I'm on my last and final cylinder, and I thought it'd be a lot harder to get the hose back there on that one, but I actually went in pretty good. So here's all my results as of right now. They all check about pretty good, except for that number 5 cylinder that I thought was the issue. So it's not, doesn't look like it's like crazy off, about 20%, but 22%, but it is higher than the rest. That would explain a little bit of oil, the spark plug, I'm assuming. And so I'm gonna go ahead and test this one right now, my last one. Go ahead and reset this gauge, and then see where this one. Now this one also had a tiny bit of oil on it. Just, it wasn't wet, it was just dark. So I'm not sure if that's focusing or not, but as you can see, and then compared to the other ones, see how white that is? That's the number 2, and then this is the number 4. So a little bit dark on that one. So I'm gonna go ahead and check this last one. Again, getting this to set at 0. Right when it hits 0, set the regulator. Regulators! Mount up. Alright, y'all, that back one is reading high. I don't know if I got it completely top dead center or not. I'm gonna probably do this one again, but it's at 30. I mean, still in the low range, but that's fairly high. I usually try to do each cylinder twice. I didn't do the middle cylinder twice, but because it seemed to register pretty good. But if it comes up to crazy numbers like that or something off, then I try to do it again. So I mean, these back 2 might be it. Although this one wasn't as wet as the other one, it is dark. So that could be it. I'm gonna go ahead and do this one more time. She is reading high. Damn, this is worse than the other side. You guys can see that. Whoop. 30%. Highest yet. Highest yet. Oh, well, looks like we have the issue. Hopefully it is valve seals. All right, y'all, so yeah, that last one, man, read the highest one yet. I didn't think it was gonna read that high. I mean, I guess I didn't know what to expect, but I knew the back 2 cylinders, those spark plugs were the darkest, so I assumed that that's where the issues were on those back 2. With that said, this is our final results. So we got compression tests up here, all checked out pretty good. Down here, again, from my understanding, they're supposed to be all about 10, right about 10% if you can. I might have been saying PSI earlier, but if I did, I meant percentage. So we have 14, 13, 22 to 23, 12, 13, and then the highest yet, 30%. So I think we came to our conclusion. Now, this being my first time, again, I still have some questions. Now, I would assume that it's valve seals is the issue. If it was a piston ring, I would imagine that it would smoke a lot more while driving. And I'm also assuming, now again, you know, I don't know the whole ins and outs of the two tests, but I would assume that if it was a piston ring, that compression would also be a little lower. Now, I could be mistaken, but again, that's my thoughts. If you guys know anything different, you know, definitely let me know. So, and then that would also give me a leak or a higher number somewhere in here as well. So at least those are my thoughts. Now, definitely chime in. You guys let me know. My first time ever doing this. But again, I'm assuming it's valve seals. And just for peace of mind, and I've never done it before in this car, I'm going to go ahead and replace those. You know, which kind of sucks, you know, because I hardly ever drive the car. Now I got to do, you know, a semi-major job, you know, taking off the heads and things like that. Or not fully taking off the heads, but, you know, taking off the springs and all that. You know, it's going to take some work to do. Probably a day job, maybe 2, depending on how fast I go or how slow I go. But, you know, in any case, I know how to do it. And on these cars, though, it is different. So stock, coming from the factory, these did not come with exhaust valve seals. Now, I am assuming, I'm just assuming, since I've never seen them before, that when this whole top end got upgraded with the race car parts, seals were put in at that time. I'm just assuming that. So I guess stock from on the exhaust side, they had like grooves in the stems, the valve stems, and it was kind of like an oil catcher. So it didn't allow oil to seep past. If you put valve seals on all of the stems, then you have to either get the current exhaust valve stems machined so they're smooth, and then you could add valve seals, or you replace the valves as well to smooth ones. So I won't really know until I go in there and look at it. What I'm gonna do is go ahead and order a set for them all, and then if I don't use them, then I don't use them. So I'm hoping that they all take seals, because from my research, people suggest just to put valve seals on them all, and, you know, worst case, take the valves out and get them machined or replace them. If these don't have exhaust valve seals on them, I'm not gonna take the heads off and get a machine. I'm just gonna leave it as is. And, you know, kind of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type deal. So, but I'm assuming that they've been replaced. So that's my thoughts. So anyways, y'all, don't want to ramble. I am done. I've been out here long enough. I feel dehydrated. I need to drink some water and go rest, man. It's Cinco de Mayo, so if you guys celebrate, man, have a margarita, have a taco, have ceviche, do whatever, man. I know we're gonna eat good today. My girl is making enchiladas. We're gonna have mango margaritas, and we just gonna chill, man. We just gonna chill. So anyways, y'all, I hope you guys benefited from this. This was just me walking through my steps on something that I've never done before, and I love attacking a new adventure, even though it takes some time to learn. You never learn, y'all, unless you dig in deep and do it. So I did it. Cheap Amazon tool, but it ended up working out. And, you know, if I was going to be using this often, if I had my own garage or something like that, I was splurging, you know, get a really, really good leak down tester kit. But being that I'll probably only use it maybe once, you know, maybe another time or two at some point, then I didn't want to, you know, spend the money to buy a good tester kit. So this ended up working out pretty good, especially with me testing each cylinder 2 to 3 times, except for that one I didn't test, but twice. I just did it once. But, you know, they all tested out pretty good. So anyways, y'all, I'm done for the day. You guys know what to do if you're just tuning in for the channel the first time. Definitely like, y'all, subscribe, and stay with me, y'all. I got a lot more content coming, trying to get this thing on the road. What I'll probably do is just put it back together, since it's going to be really, really nice this weekend, so I can still drive it. And then when I get the parts here, then I'll tear it back down and start working on it. So, but yeah, y'all, I'm out. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'm out of here. Deuces out. Also, just quick review in regards to this leak down tester, just real quick. Definitely did the job. I would say it'd be worth the money if you were only going to do just small jobs. Maybe use it, you know, handful of times. If you're going to use it at all, you know, a lot, you know, if you have your own business or anything like that and you plan on using it a lot, or, you know, you want to be running a reputable business or anything like that, I probably wouldn't use it. But if you're just using it a handful of times, maybe once, twice, under 10 times maybe, then yeah, just keep in mind you probably will have to buy another one of these. I think they're called couplers or something, I don't know. And you're probably gonna have to get something to adapt basically a new one of these to this, because this piece of crap is a piece of crap. I had to cut off this end, and this is like a metric style end, and most of the ones that I've seen were standard. So up to Lowe's, and again got this little barb fitting set that had a 1/4 inch barb fitting, a 1/4 inch MPT thread, and then I used my one that I had extra, used it on there, perfect, did not leak at all. When I did that, it worked great, y'all. It worked great. So I would say the gauge, being that I haven't used another one, like a really, really good one, it's kind of hard to assess it, but I think the gauge is just a little, it might be just a little bit temperamental. That's why I went and checked most of the times, you know, 2 or 3 times, just to kind of double check to see if they read about the same. But I'll put the link in the description to this one. It's good for the money, you know, 35 shipped or something like that. It was under 40 bucks for sure. But that way you guys can, you know, make your own decision on it.